partnered with our friends at Kindful, who have a tremendous amount of knowledge on this topic for how to engage donors to be lifetime advocates. Kindful is a donor database that offers online fundraising tools, reporting and analytics, and integrations with world-class services to keep all your nonprofit's data in one central place. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. All attendees are going to be on mute throughout the broadcast. We're not going to distribute the slides, but we will have a video version that we're going to post to YouTube and send out a link to everyone who's registered, so you can share it with your constituents. If you have any questions, we definitely want to hear them. Definitely put those into the question pane, which you'll find over on the right-hand side of your GoToWebinar. If you put those in there, we will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, and we'd love to hear from you. So definitely put those in there. You can live tweet us at WinspireMe or at Kindful App with the hashtag #LifetimeAdvocate. We have some folks who are monitoring those if you want to post your questions there or any feedback after the webinar. My name is Ian Loth. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Winspire, and I'm thrilled to welcome Carrie Wilson, a fundraising professional from Kindful. Thank you so much for joining us, Carrie.
Thanks so much for having me. Hey, everyone.
Awesome. Carrie here has a tremendous amount of knowledge that we've been working together on, and she has been kind enough to share with us here today, so very excited to get started. Before we get into things, I wanted to introduce what Winspire is for those of you who are not familiar. Well, what we do is donor-sponsored travel, so travel experiences for your charity auctions, live auctions, silent auctions, raffle prizes. All of our travel experiences are no risk. You can sell them multiple times, and your winning bidders can have open-ended travel. So basically, you reserve the experiences for your event, and then everything you sell above the package cost goes directly to your nonprofit. You can learn more at winspireme.com. To date, we've raised over $48 million for nonprofit causes since 2008, which is something we're very proud of. We support over 40,000 events globally, mostly in North America and Canada and United States, and we booked almost just shy of 80,000 satisfied winning bidders on our experiences. So we love working with nonprofits. We love what we do. If you want to learn more, please get in touch with us. We'll have more information at the end of the webinar. Carrie, why don't you tell us a little bit about Kindful?
Yeah, so like Ian mentioned, Kindful is a donor database that provides fundraising tools and a CRM. We have processed over $35 million yearly in donations, and we're proudly powering over 1,000 nonprofits worldwide, mainly in the United States and Canada, but we also have customers all around the world. And you can find out more about us at kindful.com.
Fabulous. Before we get started into the meat of this presentation, I always like to start these webinars with a little bit of participation from you all out there. And I thought it would be good to kind of get a sense for how many of you out there use a CRM to manage your donors. And for those of you who don't know what CRM stands for, it's a customer relationship manager. Is that right, Carrie? Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's either, you can call it CRM, a donor database. They're kind of interchangeable. So a system that manages your donors, so that's not an Excel spreadsheet.
Great. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to launch a poll. I'm going to launch it. Go ahead and answer the question. You'll see it pop up. Do you use a CRM to manage your donors? The answer is either yes or no. Go ahead and put your vote in right now. We have about 65% of you voted. We'll give it another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, great. Awesome. So a good percentage of you guys have used or are using a CRM to manage your donors, which is great. There's a lot of benefits to using CRMs. You get a lot of data and insight into your donors, and it makes it a lot easier to make decisions and communicate things with your donors, which we'll be talking about today. For those of you who don't, Carrie, what do you think? Those people probably using Excel?
Maybe. Yeah, and I hope that that hopefully throughout this presentation we can show the value of having a system to organize it, but you can still use some of these tips regardless. So hopefully it'll be valuable to everybody.
Great. Okay, I'm going to hide these. Thanks for your participation with that. And with that, I'm actually going to hand the presentation off to Carrie. All right, if I can find her here. and she's going to share her slides.
Great. All right, hopefully y'all can see my screen. All right, I'm assuming everyone can see my screen. Today we are going to, can you see it? All right, I'm assuming that we can. All right, so we are going to get started. Thanks, Ian, for the introduction, and welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me today. We are going to be talking about engaging donors to be lifetime advocates. I'm going to share with you some ideas that not only are strategy tips, but also I'm going to show you how to use your nonprofit technology and how it can make a real difference. So let's set the stage. Imagine your nonprofit just hosted a large auction and it went great. You had tons of people show up and bid on items and travel packages, and the speakers were so inspiring that you gained a lot of new donors and probably some prospective donors as well. So now what do? You can't just sit back and hope that they give again, but you can use the tools that you have, and if you treat them correctly, these new and prospective donors could become lifetime advocates for your nonprofit. So here's what we're going to go through today. Here's a little agenda, give you a roadmap of what I'm going to go over. First, I'm going to share with you some interesting stats about why it's important that we're even talking about this topic. Then we're going to discuss what exactly is donor engagement. What does that mean? So we're all on the same page. And then I'm going to share some practical ways to do this, including how to use your database to segment your lists. I'll walk you through some components of an email nurturing series and also show you some examples of nonprofits. And finally, I'm going to explain some ways to get your donors to become your advocates. And these are people who are on fire for your mission and willing to promote your organization as a whole. So first things first, why is this important? Why are we talking about this today? Well, this may seem like a really obvious one, but it is more cost-effective to engage new and warm prospects than going after prospective donors. The average response rate for an acquisition appeal is 1% on a good day, and that means that very rarely you're going to break even on your acquisition campaigns. And secondly, if you can get your donors to become your advocates, then they're going to be some of your most loyal supporters. Your lifetime advocates are going to do your promoting for you. They're going to spread your mission to audiences that you may or may not have been able to reach otherwise.
Before you get you go back to that slide.
Yeah.
So when you talk about breaking even, right? So the average acquisition, you were talking about going out and getting brand new donors. Usually your success rate is only 1% of the time. So out of all the money that you spend, so if you spend $100, like only $1 is going to actually go towards actually getting a brand new donor. That's pretty significant. So I think it's really important to kind of emphasize there that nurturing your existing supporters is going to be a lot more effective than going out and trying to spend a bunch of money to try to get just very few donors, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. And just to kind of emphasize on the point of promoting, word of mouth advertising generates 2 times more revenue than paid advertising, and 30% of customers that are referred by other customers have a 37% higher retention rate than those that are just cold. So trying to get your current donors to be advocates for your organization is huge because it's much less expensive and they'll be able to reach audiences that you may not have been able to do that. And one last stat that I'm going to throw in here that I don't actually have a slide for, but 73% of millennials feel that it's their responsibility to help friends and family make a smart purchase decision. And that includes giving. So reaching those younger donors is really important as well. So they care about that also.
So that makes a lot of sense. So instead of going out and trying to find brand new donors and putting up posters or whatever you might do, making cold calls, nurturing your existing supporters so that they can go out and make referrals, that 37% versus the 1% is a pretty dramatic difference there in terms of what you're going to actually succeed at doing.
Yeah, exactly. And so now I'm going to talk about how exactly you can do this, how and why you should. So I mentioned this in the agenda, and I'm going to throw this term out there, but what exactly is donor engagement? And I know donor engagement is kind of like a buzzword in the nonprofit world, but what exactly does it mean? And so we're all on the same page. For this presentation, the definition that I'm going to use is that donor engagement is using your donors' interests to keep them involved with your nonprofit in some way. So you should always be keeping your donors' interests and motivations in mind. And if you already know why they want to support your mission, then give them specific information about that program in your communications. So here are some of the reasons why donors feel engaged with your nonprofits. You want to keep donors engaged by building emotional connections. You're going to feed on the motivations that got them involved in the first place. So, like, was it a story that someone told from the stage of an event that was really powerful? Was it a vision casting speech by the CEO? Or maybe they're just related to someone that has been impacted by your mission of your nonprofit. Those emotional connections really help donors feel engaged. And you're also selling a sense of belonging to your mission, a sense of doing something good. People love being a part of something that's bigger than themselves, and your nonprofit allows them to do that. And also, it's your role as a nonprofit leader to not only solicit your constituents, but also give back to them through engagement. And this means making them feel understood and appreciated, not just treating them like an ATM. But how exactly do you do this? And is it really possible to know every single donor in your database? I mean, you may have thousands of people in there. And the fact is that you do have some technology available that allows you to do this on a mass scale, and that's what we're going to talk about for the rest of the presentation. So we have this big question that seems so simple, but is a really big question of how do you get donors to give again? You found an offer that resonated with them, and they liked it enough to give to you at least once. So how do you get them to give again? So you've got to know who they are and understand their behaviors. And while that may sound extremely basic, it's critical in order to get them to do this. Because nothing says, I think of you just like a bank account, than a generic blanket solicitation to all of your donors. So a quick real-life example of this is one of my coworkers here went to a concert in Nashville and received some interesting follow-up, to say the least. So he went to this concert, and in 1 week he received a letter in the mail with a coupon code offering for a discount for the next show. And in that exact same week, he got a personally signed letter from the CEO asking if he was interested in buying a grand piano. Which is, I mean, a grand piano. And, like, I wish I could make that up, but, like, I don't know about you, but if you think that I need a coupon to go to your next event, why do you think I also am in a financial position to buy a grand piano? And, like, I know that we're laughing about this, but orgs do this all the time. And that's because knowing your donors is so important. That's why it's so important. And we have technology available to us these days that there's really no reason why we need to be flying blind and just throwing everything out there and hoping something sticks, and maybe they'll go use your coupon code, or maybe they'll buy a piano. So we'll see. You can get very targeted with your messaging, and you can engage with your donors in a way that's meaningful and powerful and it inspires them to give again. So how do you do that? Well, first thing is segment your list. So you're going to go into your database, your group of donors, and you're going to segment them or group them based on their actions. So you create different groups that you're able to reach out to in unique and personal ways. And you'll ultimately create a more invested supporter. According to research done by MailChimp, campaigns that are segmented have a 75% higher click-through rate than those that are not segmented. And that's a huge statistic. That's incredible.
This is really important, people. Listen up. This segmenting thing, I mean, this is kind of marketing 101, but it's something that's very much underutilized in the nonprofit world, in terms of how to, make sure that your messaging is relevant to the people that you're trying to send it to. This is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, exactly. And the data backs that up. And so how do you segment lists? And while it's not necessarily a hard process to do in your database, it does take a little bit of brain power because you got to think about how you're going to group them and their actions, but it will pay off in the long run. And so the first step is to create groups based on your donors or prospective donors' actions. So this can be, what event did they attend? Did they give at this event? And was it for an item? Did they bid on an item, or was it just a general donation to your cause? What was the topic of the event that they attended? Are they currently donors? If they are, you should probably treat them a little differently than if they're not. And how have they previously engaged with you in some way? Did they volunteer with your organization? Did they just sign up to receive your emails? So kind of break them up into these groups, and then that way you can talk to them in a specific way. You can match these lists to programs that your nonprofit offers. So, for example, if someone attended an event to help raise funds for your capital campaign to build a new school, they might also be interested in supporting your other educational programs. So make sure they're kept in the loop about those programs as well, and they'll be able, and you can see if they would want to give to something like that. And they may be able to help you identify other potential donors that share similar interests to their own. So one tip here is you can match your constituents to donor personas. And this way you can determine additional programs they may be interested in giving to again, or finding like-minded donors or prospective donors. And in case you have no idea what the word persona means, a persona is a fictional person who represents all the behavioral characteristics of someone who would give to your organization. So you could say this is donor Diane, who's 45 years old, and she works at a bank, and she really loves helping sea turtles, and so she came to this event. So that would be like your donor persona.
What are some other ones? Maybe like supporter Sam, who gives maybe between $50 and $150 a year, and checks in only so often, right? You can have a bunch of different personas, and then you can leverage these personas to start segmenting your list, right? Especially for you guys, it's going to be important to pay attention to, put them in buckets of how much they give and how often they give. There's going to be the supporters who give not that often, like supporter Sam, and then donor Daisy, or board member Barbara could give, be an advocate who gives a whole lot each year, right, during the year-end giving. So these are the sort of things that you can start to use to break up your list and really cater your messaging, because you're going to want to say something completely different to board member Barbara than you would supporter Sam.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and these personas, they're also really fun to make because you get to think about what your donors are like and really get to understand them. And you can match them up to figure out how you can get new ones. So if supporter Sams are the ones that are really passionate about your organization, then try and find more of them. And so you can segment that way. And so one thing I wanted to mention here, that if this sounds like fun to you and you want to create your own personas, or you really have no idea what we're talking about, but you're intrigued and want to learn more, we at Kindful have written a complete guide to creating personas, how to use them, and I want to make sure that you have this. So after the webinar, just be on the lookout in your inbox. I'm going to send out this ebook for you for free that you can just download and have it, so you can start using these tips right away. So just be on the lookout for that. So once you have your personas, you've grouped them based on their actions. It's now to determine what's the best next step to put in front of them. So, and because you've segmented your lists and you're treating them correctly, these interactions won't seem out of left field because of what you've done, and that's going to keep them engaged. Another piece of advice would be you don't necessarily have to jump right back into a subsequent gift ask. You can show your constituents that you care about them as people, not just as checkbooks. And you can keep them informed of how your donations are being used. So send them a newsletter or something about what they supported. You can also give them opportunities to give, quote unquote, to you in other ways. So maybe you need volunteers for your event or out in the field, or maybe you need someone to, if you're an advocacy organization, you need someone to sign a petition. So you can give them other opportunities to engage with your mission, all referencing previous action. So I know I've said this a ton of times, and I'm going to keep saying it a ton of times, but personalization is so important when it comes to donor engagement. You want your messaging to reference their previous actions and then drive them towards the best next step that you hope for them to accomplish. So just think to yourself, what is it that would be helpful for this person to do next? And then tailor your next call to action to each persona type that you've created. So an example of this is, say you had a donor that bought an auction item at your event, and they're already a major donor to your organization who normally gives to you at the end of the year a really large gift. Well, you don't really want to engage them with this like one-size-fits-all communication right after their event and ask them for another gift and risk losing the large gift at the end of the year. So like I mentioned before, maybe you can stay top of mind by sending an email with a program story, show them how what they gave to at the event is actually being accomplished through your mission, and also ask them to share those stories on social media. So it's non-monetary ways to get them to engage with your organization. So one example is that they've already given to you or whatever. Another example is maybe this was the first time they've interacted with you at all and they gave you a new gift. So, and if that's the case, that leads me to my next tip, which is to create an email nurturing series. So this is a really effective way to help first-time donors stay involved with your mission through a welcomes or it's a welcome series or nurturing series. People say them in different ways. They're the same thing. What it means is it's a gradual but personal, thanks to your segmenting we did earlier, series which introduces your new donors to programs and other giving opportunities. So these people may have given at the event because they were really impacted by the story and gave out of an emotional response that we talked about, or they knew someone who was attending or works at the nonprofit, and maybe they just really wanted the prize that was available and they gave to you. This welcome series allows you to introduce your nonprofit to them in a methodical way that will hopefully encourage them to give again, which is the whole purpose. And this welcome series is a way to make a really great first impression for your organization.
Yep, this is something that we focus on too a lot here at Winspire, and I'm sure Kindful does a lot as well with the email nurture campaigns. When you're introducing the cause and everything about it, you want to have a very good, clear voice. Don't have paragraphs of text or only images. You want to have a good combination of both, but you want to start telling your story of like what it is that you do and why you do it. And you want to get people on board. It's like she said, it's your first impression.
Yeah, and according to Emma, another email platform, organizations of the Welcome Series saw a 33% increase in long-term engagement with the brand. Just another proof that this actually does work if you start working on this. So what exactly is a email nurturing series? What does it contain? I'm going to walk you through the components, and then I'll share with you some real-life examples from the nonprofit world. So here are the elements of a good nurturing series, and if this is the first time someone's interacted with your organization, then send them a welcome email. And even if it's not the first time, but you haven't sent them a welcome email, then send some sort of variation, recognizing that they've supported you and introduce your nonprofit as a whole. This welcome email allows you to explain your mission, your vision. These people may have come to your event because they were invited by a friend or interested in hearing the speaker, but they may not actually know about your organization as a whole. So this is an email where you can share your heart, your big vision of how your organization is going to change the world.
Another thing on this too, as far as that welcome email goes, make sure it's from a person. You can have it, kind of look newslettery. If you want, want to have graphics in there, use a template in Constant Contact or Emma or MailChimp. That's fine, but just make sure that in the from name and the from email address is from a person, and someone higher up with a little more credibility, maybe a development director, maybe the executive director. You can create a separate email that maybe somebody else monitors, but it appears like it's coming from the person, because people are going to end up opening that a lot more and actually responding to it and replying to it and interacting with it if they feel like it's actually coming from someone, not the organization as a whole. So if you're a development director out there, I recommend having it come from you, and find a picture, put your picture in the email, sign the email, sincerely so-and-so development director, so that they can put a face to the name, and you can start building that personal relationship with the donor.
Yeah, and you can make your subject line as simple as welcome email from CEO, or welcome, I mean, it can be as simple as just to get somebody to open it, because it's all about developing personal relationships with your donors. So you want it to be as personal as you can. The next email in the series is showing the impact of your programs. So share a success story that's specific to what they supported, making sure that you really emphasize the impact that donor support has on furthering your mission. Show them how your organization is doing that and how it's made possible specifically through donations. That's the whole point of this series, is to try and get them engaged emotionally and also financially. You can have another email that highlights other programs that your organization has to see if they're interested in anything else that you do. So just because they attended an event that was about saving the whales doesn't mean that they're not interested in saving sea turtles. It just might mean they've never heard of your program. So make sure that you introduce them to other things that you guys do. You can also ask them to follow you on social media if they're not already, and make sure that your organization is posting things that cover the whole breadth of your mission, so that they can figure out they can see all the good work that you guys are doing. And then finally, at the end of the nurturing series, don't be afraid to ask for a donation. So if your constituents are nurtured correctly, like through an email series like this and any other touch points that you have, it won't really be offensive to them to politely ask for a donation. And I know a lot of people tend to get a little wary about asking, but if you do it correctly, you shouldn't be afraid to ask for a donation. They want to support you because they like what you do. So now we're going to go into some real-life examples, see how this is working in the real world. And all these examples are a result of me signing up for their email list. And so this is the first thing that I got from them. So this first email is from an organization called Sunday Breakfast Rescue Mission in Philadelphia. And here you've got a personal letter from the CEO, like we talked about last time. It explains the history, the vision, and at the end of the email, I've learned about the organization as a whole. Maybe I've learned something new that's piqued my interest in the process. There's a picture in there. You can see who this guy is. There's also a picture of who you're helping. So it's very personal. It's very relational, and it's signed by them. So this is a great example of what you can put in a welcome email. This next one is an example of showing impact. So here we've got a success story. It's a story of changed lives. It shows how the org is having an impact on the world. It also really pulls at the heartstrings of the reader and is focused on the impact the supporter can have in this mission. So you can see, because of you, put in there a lot and really focused on the donors' impact that they can have on changing the world through this organization.
Yeah, I love the quotes in this one. They're so great. So you can see the real world impact there. And notice both last one, like she said, with the CEO, this one's from a board of director, which is also great. Mm-hmm.
Anyone who's going to have kind of authority and to develop that relationship is great to put as a signer. And also if you have anyone that people know their name, so if your founder is well known, that's another good one to put in there as well. This last example actually has all three the last steps in one email. So as you can see, that's circled. You can clearly see the list of all the services they provide. So maybe I signed up because I was interested in their food bank, but now that I see that they also have health clinics, I might also support that as well. They also have a clear social media ask at the bottom explaining what they'll receive when you follow them on social media, which is great. It says more stories and photos. They're available on everything. And so you know exactly what you're getting when you sign up for, when you follow them on social media. And then the last one, they also include an opportunity to give. And now that they've introduced you to the organization as a whole, they can test if offers resonate with them. So this one's talking about meals and how much it costs to give one hungry person a meal. So start testing those waters of the offer, and it's been there very, very tastefully, and it's not really overt, and it's got that great video up there. So this is a really great example of how you can include all of these, 3 of the components really, or 4, in just one email.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was just going to say the video thing on emails. You know, I've had some questions in the past. People, how the heck do you put videos in emails? What this actually is it's a link, but it's an image that fools you into thinking that it's going to, you know, play the video right in your email client, but it's not. What that usually is it's an image of a screenshot of a video that will link out to like a YouTube or Vimeo or hosted somewhere else. So I totally endorse, support putting videos in your emails and put quotations around putting videos in, right? It's most putting an image that will link out to a video that someone can then watch. Yeah,
definitely. If once they figure out how to do that, that would be really cool to have it play in your email.
Right.
So far, we don't have anything like that.
You can try making a GIF, but it brings its own challenges. But those are always kind of fun.
That's very true. One tip about these series is that you can actually set this up to be automated through your in your emails. So it saves you time. You set it up once, and then you know every time someone interacts with your organization in the future, say they sign up for your email list or they give a donation for the first time online, you know when you know that they're going to be given this series, so you don't have to worry about, oh, did I welcome them? Like, it's automatic, it's ready to go, so you're good on that. And
yep, this is one of the benefits of having a CRM, right? Because the CRM is going to allow you to create triggers, and so when someone enters in your CRM, remember that's that customer relation management system or donor database. Then it triggers an email through an email service provider, an ESP, whether that be MailChimp, Emma, Constant Contact, one of those. I know Kindful has their own integrations they do, which are fabulous. They're seamless. But this really takes the burden off you. You can kind of set it and forget it, right? So just like a crock pot. So you set it out there, and then those emails just start shooting out, and you can do whole strings of emails based on those segmented lists, right, of, okay, who is this person, how much did they give, what did they tell us about themselves, then they're going to get this set of emails over here, and those can, you know, stretch out over months and months. So this email automation tip is a great thing that you should actually be doing on there. And one other thing too, I wanted to kind of on this note, you do want to be using those ESPs, email service providers, like I've mentioned, as opposed to, you know, you don't want to be doing this manually, and you don't want to be BCCing, you know, people or groups. You know, you get a list of donors. Okay, this is who've donated this month. I'm going to just get this whole list in here. I'm going to type out this email, and I'm going to BCC all of them. I still see that, believe it or not. I know that it's preached about never to do out there across the internet, but I still see it. So make sure that you are signing up for an email service provider to send out these automated emails.
I could not agree more. And the email providers like Kindful doesn't send emails, but we integrate seamlessly with Constant Contact, MailChimp, and Emma. And those are the guys who really know how to do this. I mean, that's what their business is. And they have great nonprofit pricing, and a lot, like MailChimp is free for part of it. And so, like, you get those, and they can even send out such beautiful emails, and that are set up. And there's going to be some front work, but once you set it up, you can then spend that time that you would have been, you know, importing and exporting out with your donors and building those relationships face to face and doing something else than actually looking at Excel all day, which is never fun unless you really love Excel, but I don't. But one other thing that I wanted to point out with this email series before we move on is that the length of this series can vary, and it doesn't have to contain every component that I listed. So if your nonprofit only has one program, that's totally fine. just make sure that you test what the best cadence is for your organization. Like the nonprofit that I showed the example of, they do it in 2 emails, which is great. The nonprofit that I worked for, we started with 5 emails, basically having all of these components in a separate email. And then we tested 3 emails instead, where we combined the social media ask and the other programs offered. And we ended up getting better results with sending 3 emails, so we rolled out with that instead of having all 5. So it really just depends on the type of information you're sending and how your audience engages with your email. So make sure that you test as much as you can. But if you do need a starting point, if you're like, okay, great, where do I start? I'd recommend starting with 3 emails: a welcome vision email, a success story email, and then an email that showcases your programs if you have them, that also contains a soft ask for a donation. And like I said, the key here is referencing what they've done in the past. So the event they attended, the program they gave to, whatever.
Would you say, Carrie, that, I mean, do you want at least at some place in every single email a button where they can go donate?
I would, yeah, and that is a great segue to the next topic.
Nice.
So thanks. A lot, like I mentioned before, you don't want to forget to include opportunities to give. Well, you shouldn't necessarily ask them for a gift all the time, and you want to make sure when it's appropriate, which is where your CRM comes in, because it helps you to know who has just given, how much they gave, so you don't send them another appeal accidentally before you even get to send them a thank you note. And it also prevents you from sending them a very random appeal for a grand piano. So you got that going for you too. So that being said, there are some tactical ways that you can ask for a donation. One is really simple, and it's just to include a link to your donation page in your email signature, your personal email, so Gmail or whatever you're using. This you can use. It's a very easy, non-intrusive way to ask people for a gift, even if they don't want to use it. It's there if they want to use it, but you aren't explicitly asking them. And this can be putting, a donate now button on the end of your signature or in your email. But if you don't want to do that, you can also just hyperlink text that says, support sea turtles today, or interested in supporting, learn how, or whatever your mission is. But I would also say that you would include a donate button at the end of any email that you send when it feels appropriate. So these welcome series, you always want to give them a chance to give, because you never want your donor to get to something that you sent out and be like, man, I really want to give, but I have no idea where to do it. So you always want to at least give them that outlet and option to be able to do that. One other tip is that make sure you include all of your attendees in your big giving campaigns. And I can't stress this one enough, and it may seem really obvious, but don't forget to include them in big fundraising appeals. So these include your year-end appeals, your fiscal year-end, or even if you have a matching gift offer. Donors are really interested in making an impact. That's why they give to you in the first place. So if they know that their donation could be doubled or tripled or whatever your matching grant is, that could be really appealing to them to get them to give again. And a key thing to remember is to send personalized versions of these big giving campaigns. And when I say personalized, I don't just mean putting a dear first name in the beginning. It's what we've been talking about. Use your database to help you reference their previous interactions. That's where segmentation comes in. And you'll be able to make them feel appreciated and not like they're just a piggy bank and that you're trying to grab stuff from them. So the last point is asking your donors to be advocates or evangelists for your organization. So now that you've successfully converted them to a giver or a two-time giver, now you can work on making them advocates. So what's an advocate? What I mean by that is it's just simply someone who publicly supports and recommends your organization. If someone's given to your organization more than once, they're interested in and probably passionate about your mission. So why not let your donors help you increase your brand awareness as well as recruit other prospective donors? So here are just a couple of examples of ways that you can encourage your donors to be advocates and help them spread the word. First is very easy. You can create social media posts that are worth sharing. So some examples are a powerful image, a statistic, a powerful image with a statistic, a piece of content, maybe an ebook or an infographic or just whatever is compelling. Go through your social media posts and see what people have responded to in the past. See what has the most likes and shares or retweets. If there are certain ones that have the most, then just create more of those. You don't really have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to shareable posts. So just if you find a formula that works, keep cranking those things out and getting your donors to share them. Another way.
Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
for it.
I just want to say a couple things on social media, right? Like obviously, and maybe it's not obvious, but the things that are going to get or give the most impact or create the most impact are going to be images and video, right? So finding good images from your cause, posting those with a catchy status, things that are going to get people to pause as they're scrolling through their timeline. Videos are also great, but make sure they're short, right? You can say a lot in 30 seconds, and that's pretty much the maximum amount of time you have to try to get someone's attention. But even just something that you snap on your iPhone or your smartphone, just a short little video of something happening, a testimonial, somebody thanking the organization, just super quick, is just something great to have posted onto your timeline. So just understand the resources that you have at your disposal. Everyone has a little video camera that is directly linked to your Facebook pages in your pocket. So there's no excuse for trying to come up with, oh no, we don't really have content that we can post.
Yeah, that's very true. And one other thing for video, if you do video on Facebook, make sure that you add captions. So that most people are reading videos now than actually listening to the sound. So if you want people to know what you're saying, make sure you put captions on your videos. Another cool thing that you can do and that's really fun and creative is to just play up your hashtag game. Create a hashtag around your cause, like we have one for even this webinar, but then plaster that thing everywhere. So and get your advocates to use and promote it, and that's key. So hashtags can be used across all social media platforms to spread awareness, and you can also use them to challenge your donors to do something. I mean, we all remember the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge and how successful that was. And while that really took on a life of its own, there's a lot of things that you can apply to your own audience. Challenge people to tag their friends or to do something. Just start getting creative with how you engage your donors, and social media is a great and fun way to think outside of the box rather than your newsletter. But think of some sort of fun thing that they can do to encourage each other and to really get your message out there. And make sure that whatever you do, make sure that you set a goal, or make sure that your goal is to get as many new social media followers as possible. So with any campaign, you always want to have a goal, and for these ones, it's just kind of brand awareness of your org. And once you do that, when you have all of your followers, you can start this process over and start nurturing your new followers into prospective donors. So social media is a cool way to do that. All right, so what did we learn today? We're going to just go over some reviews to remember. So I must have said this a ton of times, but by segmenting your donors, prospective donors, event attendees, or really any list of people that you have based on preferences or actions, you can increase the engagement rate and ultimately the response rate of your fundraising appeals. An email nurturing series is a great way to drive prospective givers towards giving a donation and also getting first-time givers to give again. Make sure that you continue to ask for donations as long as it's done in appropriate ways, and use your database to help you determine when and what is an appropriate ask. And use your current group of donors can make great evangelists for your organization. So put on your thinking caps and start brainstorming new hashtags. So my summary would be that while auctions and events are great ways to build a list of new and prospective donors for your organization, and make sure that you don't let this opportunity slip through the cracks by sending a one-size-fits-all follow-up communication. Use your database to segment and target your attendees and auction item purchasers properly so you can put a well-informed next step in front of them to keep them engaged after the event. So in case you're interested in learning more or anything, you can always check out Kindful's blog. It's just kindful.com/blog and kindful.com/resources. We've got tons of ebooks, webinar downloads, guides, worksheets, under the sun. Check them out if you are interested in learning. But that is all that I have for y'all, and I'd love to open the floor for some questions.
Great. Let's see here. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Carrie. We've got a couple questions here. If you guys have any questions, now's the time to ask them. Go ahead and put them in the questions pane. We'd be happy to address any of them. Got one here from Michael Oliver. I think he's referring to the Kindful kit that you mentioned. Does it also talk about the pro tip kit? Does it also talk about these forms of promotion, right? Like how to do hashtags, step-by-step, that sort of thing.
So the persona, it's a Persona Marketing 101 ebook that we'll send out, and it talks more about how to create those personas and then how to segment them into groups. It doesn't go into the promotional side of it, but we do have some resources on our blog about like intro to Twitter and intro to Facebook on how you can do that. Plus, you're also going to get the recording of this afterwards. So if you want to re-listen to that over, and we'll put a summary up on our blog of this as well. So I'll make sure to include that so you have access to everything you need.
Love it. Okay, thank you, Michael. This one is from Jennifer Simmons. How would you suggest spacing out the 5 welcome emails? Once a week, once a month?
So I would do them once every couple of days. And again, I know this sounds like a cop-out answer, but you really do have to test. I would start with a couple of days. You could test it out once a week or once every 3 days or so. You don't want to do it once a month because you want to make sure that you're top of mind for your new donors, and especially if they're brand new to your organization, you really don't want them to forget about you. And so that way, if you're sending them informational emails like that, it's not going to feel like spam to them because they went to your event. You're giving them good content. And it's not like you're just, asking them all the time. So I would start off maybe every 3 days sending them out. But you could test if you want to do it every day or once a week. You could test different streams if you wanted to do that. But a good starting point is probably like every 3 days.
I would totally agree. Yeah, once a week, it might actually feel like you're crowding their inbox, but people get a lot of emails every day. Again, people's attention spans are short, so every day might be a little too much. Once a week kind of spaces it out enough to where it might be they might kind of start to forget. But if they're receiving 2 emails from you a week, then you can be sure that they're well aware of what's going on. But I wouldn't do more than like 4 or 5 emails because then it starts to get annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This one's so thank you for that, Jennifer. This one's from Elsie Soderberg. What do you find to be the most useful segmenting strategy? By location of donor, by activity of donor? And she said, say you're a one-man team, what would you prioritize? So let's start with the segmenting.
Yeah, so my first kind of question for you to think about would be, what's your goal of the campaign that you want to run? So is it to find prospective donors in a certain location? Are you having an event somewhere that you need, that you want people to attend? And so that would be a really good one for location. I would say that you would segment them based off, if you have multiple programs or offers, a great place to start is to segment based off of offers. So if you have, then you know who likes this and who likes this, so you know what messaging to start sending to them. And if you only have one offer, then I would suggest starting with gift size. So then you can treat your donors a little differently. The ones who are major donors, who are mid-level donors, and who are general donors, you can start tailoring communications specifically to them. Maybe make the major donor one a little more personal, follow it up with phone calls or handwritten notes. So I would first think about the goal of what you're segmenting for, and then start with offer, and then do gift size. But location and age and demographic and any other information that you have is really great as well if you're creating your personas.
Yep.
So
Yeah, like it's a good way to think about it, and you kind of touched on it here, right? So, like you have those kind of broad topics, gift size, those sorts of things, but then, the other factors, right, like demographics, uh, age and location can be used to build the personas, which can then be used to build the segmented lists. Location is also kind of something that you would want to segment by, especially if you have multiple locations, right? Maybe in different counties or even in different states. Then you're going to want to maybe cater your messaging to fit those locales. So, but keep in mind, right? So you have your segmented lists, then you have personas that can be used. And they can be used across multiple segmented lists. So I could have supporter Sams, but then segment them by location, right? And supporter Sam gives a certain level then, compared to board member Barbara, that sort of thing. So it can get a little complicated, but it kind of just follow those broad themes for segmenting those lists.
And you can put people in, so say you have a ton of donors and you have some that are in Nashville that are also large donors, and you want to segment based on location in both. You can have as many groups as you want. Just make sure that when you're sending email communication that you pull the right people out, that you're sorting correctly, and that you don't want to send multiple emails to the same people.
Yep. And then Elsie, if you are a one-man team or one-woman team, what would you prioritize? That's a great question. What would you say, Carrie, before I answer?
I would prioritize, as I mentioned, based on your offer. But I think that having personas are very helpful, not only for for marketing in general and fundraising in general. You can use them for so much. You can create content based off of them, and they're not super hard to create. You just you sit down and you kind of group your donors, and in the ebook there's a checklist that says how are you engaging with your donors and how are they engaging with you, which will help you start thinking about how you would group your personas. So I would start there, because there's so much that you can do from that. So that would be my recommendation, and yeah, I would start there.
You learn a lot about your donors when you start interviewing them and figuring out, because a big part about you can't just sit down and start writing. You got to start talking to people, right? And you know your donors hopefully better than anybody else, but it helps to kind of reach out, get to know them a little more, find out what their interests are, and then you ultimately end up learning more about the people that you're marketing to, because that's what this is, right? You're marketing to them to try to become more engaged, and then you can start building out the various email campaigns, marketing automation, segmented lists, and such. So I totally agree. Personas is a great place to start.
And that's how you and really like segmenting. So, and that's why it's so great to have. We have so much technology available to us these days, and so to be able to create lists and segments in your donor base to help you create these personas, so you're not just flying blind. You're able to create those groups, see how many people you have. So sort them. You can sort them by whatever you want, and gift size. You can see, wow, 80% of my revenue comes from only 20% of my people. Maybe I should treat these 20% differently. And so you really have a lot available to you at your fingertips with all of the technology available.
Great. Thank you, Elsie. We got David Tomyan. Does MailChimp or Kindful have any tools for creating nurturing emails, such as templates, links, apps, etc.? I know MailChimp definitely does have templates. Most of the ESPs, the email service providers, Emma, Constant Contact, MailChimp, all have templates that you can absolutely use. What about Kindful?
Well, Kindful is your CRM, so it's not going to have email templates, because we do integrate with those awesome platforms like Constant Contact, MailChimp, Emma. So what you can do is you can create your automated email template through MailChimp, and you can set it up, have it ready to go, and then all that data that you send with MailChimp will automatically sync with Kindful in your database. So you can open up your donor record and you can see what emails they received, what stream they're in. So it all talks to each other. So Kindful doesn't specifically have an email platform because we know there's people out there that do it really, really well. And so we've just integrated with them so that you can use your MailChimp account that you're comfortable with, and then have all the data you need in your hub of your database.
Yep. Thank you for that, David. And G. McDaniel has just asked, can you provide that list of email service providers again? MailChimp, Constant Contact, and Emma. Myself, I haven't worked with Emma. I've worked with Constant Contact and MailChimp. I would recommend MailChimp. It's very user-friendly, and they have some really beautiful templates that work really well across email clients. Constant Contact, on the other hand, it's also great. And I think they actually have a special for nonprofits, special pricing for nonprofits. So they're also a great one to look into. Can you say something about Emma? Okay.
Yeah, Emma is probably right in between. It has beautiful templates that you can use, and they've just started, or they have automation as well. So, and they have also nonprofit pricing that you can work with. And a lot of these email providers, yeah, they all have nonprofit pricing. MailChimp, I think the first, 1,000 or 2,000 contacts are free, regardless if you're a nonprofit or not. So that's a really cool place to get started.
Nice. Val Budashak, is this webinar available for reference at a later date? Absolutely. I'm going to be sending out a recording of it tomorrow morning, so look out for that so you can share that with your constituents. Deborah B. We only have one fundraiser a year. We have a live auction, silent auction, and raise the paddle for specific giving. Should we segment the giving by these categories, whether they bid in the live auction, the silent auction, or participated in the raffle? That's a good question. What do you think, Carrie?
I think that if you're able to identify them, absolutely. It's never, in my opinion, you can't really segment too much because you can't really know. It's all about knowing your donors. So if I was a donor and I got a letter in the mail saying, "Hey, I know that you were at our raffle or our silent auction, and we'd love for you to come back. We're having this other event, or whatever." I would be pretty impressed that you knew that I came, where I actually came, went to, and so it just shows that you really care about your donors. So I would segment them in as much as you can. So
that's a great point, Carrie. And it's funny because a lot of these marketing automation and ESPs that we're talking about, they allow you to segment, right, and cater your messaging, like we've talked about before. And a few years ago, it might have been a little creepy, right? Like, how the heck did they know this? But nowadays, everyone's so used to it. They know that, so it's more impressive when you know where they came from. So I think this is a great example in terms of segmenting donors that you see at an event. You can send people, and hey, we noticed that you bid on a live auction item last year. Check out what we're going to have this year at the live auction, so please come prepared to bid. Same with the silent auction. We noticed that you were a bidder in the silent auction, so make sure, here's a couple of the items that were coming out this year. We noticed that you did the raffle, so we're selling raffle tickets again this year at this much. That because you're saying that we know this about you, it's kind of like a little elbow nudging, as opposed to just a blanket email, please buy our raffle tickets, right? Elsie again, so thank you for that, Deborah B. Elsie again just said, yep, one-woman team here. Well, you go, girl. Sounds like you're doing good stuff. You're taking the right step just joining this webinar. Let's see, Michael and Oliver. Asking about the recording. We'll send that out. Listen meter, I put on my schedule that the start at 11. Oh no, we will send it to you at tomorrow morning, so don't you fret. Let's see, one question here from Kim Broderick. All these ideas put in Senate sound great, and we'd like to implement them. However, we host 10 to 12 events on top of other fundraising activities, and it seems like many of these ideas would be time-consuming. How do other organizations go about doing this? It doesn't have to be time-consuming, right? Though when you sit down and set your personas, that's something that you can use the help of everyone in your organization to do. And like I said before, a lot of these, what we're talking about here is kind of that onboarding campaign of welcome emails. And we're talking about 3 to 5 emails. And if you use a CRM like Kindful that has integrations with a email service provider like MailChimp, Emma, and Constant Contact, once you create it once, you can set it and forget it. And then you know that every single donor that's coming in is giving you certain information, and then you're segmenting it, and then you're sending them a certain email, and then it's good, so that you can get back to organizing those events. But it is an absolute necessity, I would say, to make sure that you are engaging these donors and ramping them up to become those lifetime advocates and getting engaged in your cause. What do you think, Carrie?
I think that's an excellent answer, and I think that's a lot of events to be running, so power to you. That's awesome.
A lot of events, that's for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree that it just takes a little bit of time, and maybe it's um, booking a couple hours with your team and whiteboarding of how are our donors and engaging with us currently, and how do we want them to be engaging, and just setting those up first so that you know who you're talking to, because you're going to be sending emails anyway to people, so you might as well send them the right content and the right emails. So definitely, it's worth it in the end, and it is going to take a little bit of time in the beginning, but like Ian said, it is going to be a one and done type of thing. You're always going to want to reference it and make sure you're up to date, um, but take that. I would recommend taking that time in the beginning before you send out your campaigns, and just have fun with it and whiteboard and get creative
Yeah.
with your names for your
Get those
persona.
whiteboards out. Whiteboards
Yeah.
are great, and get that group together that you trust to come up with ideas and just start writing some stuff out, and find someone who's a little tech savvy to just hit the ground running with this stuff.
Yeah, and use it. Make sure that it's data driven, that you're not just sitting in there and saying, "Donor Dan, I think goes here and gives this." So make sure that everything that you do is data driven from your actual donors, so you don't create something that's not relevant at all.
Love it. All right, great. I think you got one more slide there, Carrie. Let's go and put that one up just so everyone has.
So everyone can see our beautiful faces.
There we go. All right. I want to thank, first of all, everyone for joining us here today. I want to thank Carrie Wilson from Kindful for coming and sharing her knowledge. Both of our email addresses are up there on the screen right now. Feel free to reach out for either one of us. Carrie, did you want to talk about the offer that you're going to be sending out after this?
Yeah, just a reminder, we're going to be, so you'll get the recording tomorrow, and right after that, you'll be getting the Persona Marketing 101 ebook that we've created, and it'll teach you how to make these personas, and like I said, it has a checklist in there, it's got some really cool tools, and then it tells you why you need to be doing this as a refresher course, so hopefully you can hit the ground running on creating these things.
Love it. Great. And if you guys have any events coming up this fall, you're looking for auction items, we are here to help you with that. Live auction items, silent auction items, raffle prizes. We do travel experiences that are no risk. So check out winspireme.com. We have a full catalog there of over 200 unique experiences. Pay nothing to reserve it, and then you keep all the proceeds over your nonprofit cost. So shoot me an email or check out our website if you have any questions. Thank you, everyone. You will hear from us today or tomorrow morning with the recording and the offering that Carrie just mentioned. Thanks again, Carrie, and we hope to see you guys back here for another webinar here someday soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.